Hello everybody, I'm Tony Craig, this is F1 Grandstand and this is your daily F1 news. And has James Vowles put his foot in his mouth again? Come on Williams, you're making this too easy for us to take the, pee out of you. Also, Ayao Komatsu explains something scary, the scary element to qualifying in 2026. And there's a burning fuel hack to help recharge the battery that we're going to be talking about. And also Red Bull's rough edges. So yes, if you're a Formula One fan, of course you're in the right place. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Smash a like on the video if you do enjoy it. And if you do subscribe, make sure you got the bell all icon ticks just behind that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all of our content and you get to choose which bits of content that you engage with. Hello chat, we've got a busy chat. So we've got Gemma's in there. Gemma, Queen of the Chat's in there. Nathan's in there. Drop tuned. Anthony Ford, hello sir. DT, howdy. Josette, welcome to the chat. Lovely to have you with us. God, it's busy tonight. I love it. All here on time, present and correct. Love that. So yes, Williams. Honestly, they make it too easy. They make it too easy to take the to make fun of them. If I'm honest, at the moment, because James Vowles really throwing stones. And when you hear what it's about, I think you'll agree with me. Hey Dolly, welcome to the chat. So let's first of all ignore their headline. Right? Because the headline on F1 Oversteer is James Vowles just made a brilliant point after one Adrian Newey concept on Aston Martin's new Formula One car. That's their headline. My headline for the same stuff would have been James Vowles, you cheeky bugger, right? And you'll see why in a minute, because what he's talking about is we all know we've all seen for a start the Aston Martin 26, their suspension setup. Remember when I said, oh, look at how high the suspension arms are. Like it's a wild design, and how's he doing it? So James Vowles has actually given his opinion on the suspension. So what Vowles told journalists via Mundo Deportivo, I mean, it's really impressive. Adrian Newey is a creative designer, and it's really impressive what he's done with the swing arms in places where I don't think they should be, but he's managed it. However, the interesting thing is that that's exactly what needed as a narrative. I mentioned before, it's difficult for anyone to tell you what the order is because I don't think the cars you see today are necessarily the ones you'll see in Melbourne. And that's what makes it interesting at the start of the season. So I've been impressed, but I'll have to see where everyone ends up. And what he's basically saying is Williams, he's saying we've got a different approach to suspension, and he thinks what Adrian Newey's done is pretty wacky. And it's like, all right, James, well, before you start commenting on someone else's suspension, let's take a look at your suspension. So this is the current suspension. No, not that one. There. Oh, look. There is no suspension. There's no push rod. There's no pull rod. There's no... All you've got is a show car with solid carbon fibre arms. So we don't know what your suspension's like, but you're already saying, well, Newey's got suspension arms in places where they shouldn't be, blah, blah, blah. But we haven't seen yours. What does your suspension look like? In fact... we've not even seen your car. The only thing we've seen from your car, Volsey, is this.
You have enough leeway with that
yeah,
to move your head.
It's not even your car. So, before you start commenting on other cars on the grid, I think you're in a glass house, Volsey. Like, no one's seen your car. No one knows what your suspension solution is. And saying that you think that maybe the Newey suspension from an engineering point of view shouldn't work. Well, let's see what you're bringing to the table. Because right now, we know that you're in a shambles. Didn't make it to Barcelona. Done 0 laps. You've done a virtual testing program, which granted is a little bit better than sort of a sim. It's like, you actually did, it was like a rolling road where you had the car running. Like, I understand that is some benefit, but you are so far behind the curve. So you got to be careful what you're saying when you're pointing at other people's designs when no one knows what the hell you're bringing to the table. All we've heard is that your suspension solution is revolutionary, but not quite as revolutionary as Aston Martin's. That's what you're saying. You said you've taken some very different design cues to everyone else, but not quite as extraordinary as Adrian Newey. I'm guessing you've got push rod, because that does seem to be the correct way to go. Push rod front, push rod rear. But the point is, if you're the only team on the grid who doesn't make it to Barcelona, no one's seen your car, I think really, you really, the last thing you want to be doing is commenting on other people's choices. I just don't think it's the right thing to do. I think you're setting yourself up for a fail. I mean, it's laughable, isn't it?
Having a laugh. Generally, we have laughs, and that's good. We've always maintained the laughing, even when it was not so much to laugh about.
But like Toto says, we like having a laugh, don't we? But I think the thing is, right now, the butt of everyone's joke is Williams, right? Because they're so far behind the curve. So you've got to be careful, Volsey, with what you're saying when it comes about other people's designs. And actually, the interesting thing about the Newey suspension design and actually other parts on that car, we are looking, like with Ferrari, at a Spec A car. But let's remind ourselves of how good that car looks on track. And when we compare that to the Williams car that we've seen, which is, well, we haven't seen it. all we've seen is
you have
this.
enough leeway with that to move your head left.
So yeah.
Yes, fine.
I think under these circumstances, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones and even comment in any way negatively about. I mean, obviously, I'm batting for Adrian Newey and the Aston Martin team because, I want that story. Like, I think we all do. I want Aston Martin and Newey's, like, pièce de résistance of his car designing career to be at Aston Martin. I want Honda to deliver a power unit. And we know that is the question mark with Aston Martin. It all comes down to their power unit. Is it going to be any good? And I'm rooting for it. I'm hopeful that they iron out any of the wrinkles. But yeah, James Vowles again speaking to the press, talking about other people's cars, which I think is not the right thing to do. I'm going to go to the chat. Yeah, Joe said, yeah, it's a dummy car. So sad because Williams have done so well last season, but it ain't all over till it's over. I agree. I mean, I'm poking fun, obviously. F1 is unpredictable, and that's what's going to make it so exciting. You're right, just that. Because basically, I'm poking fun. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. It's a pretty slow news days in the world of Formula One. But this, I think, is quite funny because when you've got teams all like in this early stage, then all you've got is kind of, the little bits of footage that we see, the little bit of banter going from one team to another. People are commenting. Everyone's commenting on Newey's design. No one's really talking about the other cars. The only comments that other teams have been saying about other car designs, yes, rival manufacturers on power units, of course. There's been lots of comments about that. But when it actually comes to car design, why is nobody doing memes about the air conditioning unit above the head of Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls? Have you seen the size of it? Honestly, it's huge. I mean, that can't be aerodynamically optimized, can it? It's absolutely massive. But people are, but at the end of the day, everyone's fascinated with Newey's car. I am as well. And I think we all want it to be good. Hey, Hooked on Classics, I can see you in there, buddy. So yeah, James Vowles. I'm sorry about tonight's show, by the way, because I believe it or not, I don't want sympathy, but I do seem to have managed to catch man flu for the second time in 3 weeks. And so I've got my hot cup of tea. My nose is streaming. But listen, I'm not saying it. I'm still going to show up because I'm a trooper. I'm a soldier. And I'm going to make sure I turn up for the community. Yeah, Giuseppe, absolutely right. It looks like the Batmobile. The MR26. I love it. I absolutely love it. Excuse me. But yeah, so James Vowles sticking his neck out again. And he's just going to be, we could see in Bahrain next week a brilliant Williams. Like I hope we do, because I remember the days, I've said it before, in the 90s when Nigel Mansell, Alain Prost, Damon Hill, even Jacques Villeneuve, David Coulthard, all like driving for Williams in the glory years. Oh, Thane, sorry, Thane, have you done a super chat? Hang on, let's have a look. It's the chat's moving so quickly tonight. Oh, Thane says AMR, Ferrari, and even Red Bull have said they are playing with different concepts. Yeah, Merc have struggled to develop throughout the year. Merc didn't do well last year. Ferrari and Red Bull had a bad year. They did. And actually, out of all the teams last year that impressed me the most when it came to development, it has to be Red Bull, doesn't it? If you see what they did, I mean, what a turnaround with Max's car. When everyone else stopped developing really their cars to early midpoint of 25, Red Bull just found those improvements, didn't they? Floor upgrades, aero upgrades, and and I think that's one thing Lauren McKees brings to Red Bull. Whatever they've got going on in their factory, I do feel that they're able to design and produce upgrades probably quicker than anybody else. So if Red Bull are a little bit behind the curve in Melbourne, I think they're a team. All teams will have an aggressive upgrade program, obviously, because brand new regulation cycle. No one gets it right at the beginning. None of them have got it right yet. We know that. They've all just chucked a car out. Excuse me, but none of them are optimized. None of them really know where the level is. Truly, we'll get more of an idea in Bahrain, but I know a lot of the chat have said this as well. Most teams don't want to reveal their hand too early. Newey's the master of that as well. Newey, Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, none of them have got it all turned up to 100. I think in Bahrain we'll see some more hot laps, but if you listen to Fred Vasseur with his launch of the SF26 A-spec car, he believes there'll be a C-spec car by Melbourne. So all we've seen are A-spec cars. The cars that I think will develop minimally before Melbourne will be McLaren, because they've openly said that's their strategy. We've put a car out there and we're going to understand this car before we start taking choices for upgrades and new avenues to improve the car. They basically said we want to see what everyone else is doing in Melbourne, and we'll see what works, and then we'll take our cues from there, which is going to mean a slow start. But is it like the hare and the tortoise? Is it a situation where, yes, but they're not wasting time doing developments on things that don't work? They're able to cherry pick from the teams and go, like that. That seems to be, that's great. And is that a hare and a tortoise? Do McLaren start off slower than the teams? And is that the right strategy to go? But that is their strategy. Newey has said the car we saw in Barcelona won't be the car we see in Melbourne. Ferrari won't be. Mercedes won't be. I think the other teams, I think teams like Alpine, yeah, the car's going to be pretty much that car. Cadillac, pretty much. Audi, I mean, they're going to improve the car, but are we going to see anything radical? I doubt it. But that's what I think. Oh God, my nose! It's so. Peter Arnold in the chat. I see there, buddy. Is that Racing Bulls has an overheating issue? It'll be hilarious. Yeah, listen, Peter. If that Red Bull, if that Racing Bulls car with the massive air intake ends up overheating, that will be ridiculous. Because honestly, it's the size of the Channel Tunnel. I mean, imagine if it's. I mean, look, I can't. I actually feel. I know when we're talking about teams where they're going to sit next year, the one team I think might go backwards next year is the V Carb. I mean, they were competing what fifth and sixth most Grand Prix. Isaac Hadjar, he got a podium as well, didn't he? But yeah, I don't think that the Racing Bulls are going to be as competitive in 26. I feel like Alpine will improve. I feel that Aston Martin definitely will improve. I feel like Racing Bulls will be fighting with Cadillac. Haas are an interesting one because Haas really seem to have got their shit together, and we're going to talk about Haas in a minute. Like I feel like Haas look like that. They completed a lot of laps in Barcelona. That Ferrari engine looks pretty darn good. I feel the car looks aerodynamically like an improvement. Yeah, and I think Ayao Komatsu is a good team principal and he's an engineer, and I think he's really led the development. Plus, they got all the extra Toyota money coming in as well. So I think that's... I just saw Gemma's super chat. Your nose is streaming and so are you. Very funny. My nose is streaming. And so am I. Look, I'm going to say it right. Look, I'm honest with you guys. This isn't going to be my best stream ever, I'll tell you, because my brain is foggy as hell. But yeah, the Gemma, you've thrown me. What was I talking about? Remind me. Gemma's your nosy stream has thrown me. You thrown me off my flow, Gemma. What was I talking? That's what I'm saying. I'm so full of flu. My brain's cabbage. So yeah, basically. I think what I was saying was about Haas. Thank you, Jaban. Thank you, Nathan. Haas. Yeah. So Ayao Komatsu. Ayao Komatsu, I think, has been an incredible signing for Haas, and I think the fact that he's brought that money in from Toyota as well, that I actually feel that Haas could be the dark horse. You saw the performances from Ollie Behrman towards the end of last season. Haas improved throughout the season as well. I feel that Haas could be far better than people think. I don't think they're going to be fighting at the back. I think Haas will be fighting for points. So yeah, I think Haas is going to be an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair bet. Hooks on Classics. Could Haas get a podium this year? I think Ollie Behrman will get a podium this year. I do think it's possible. And I'm going to talk about Haas now actually because Ayao Komatsu came out talking about qualifying, about the scary new element in qualifying for F1 26. Now, I like this because he used words which made sense and really sort of put it into perspective for the layman. Because the 26 cars are basically going to be energy starved, Ayao Komatsu revealed that the fight for pole could be influenced heavily by small errors in preparation laps. And this is what I thought that was interesting. Because he thinks that if you get your preparation lap wrong, the lap before your hot lap, before your actual timed lap, if you get that preparation lap slightly wrong, you could lose half a second in your hot lap. And it all comes down to managing the battery. And I thought this is a whole new element, really. And he goes to explain it in words I think are pretty good. So there's more vulnerability at the start of the season. I think if something goes wrong, I think it'll be pretty obvious. If somebody's not deploying correctly, battery, let's say opening a qualifying lap on the pit straight or going into turn one, if somebody's not going very quickly, then you'll realise straight away that they didn't do it correctly. So I think it'll be very visible, especially early on. We're not talking about tenths. You can lose half a second, 6 tenths, 7 tenths very easily. That's the scary bit. So if you're coming out of turn 14 on your preparation lap, if you don't get that right and harvest the energy in the right way, your hot lap, you could be 6 tenths down. So what they're saying is now, with the way this is, with the battery management, if you get it wrong, the gaps could be like half a second in Formula One is just gigantic. So it's interesting. This is what he says. So the outlap, You can't waste any energy on the outlap at all. Because drivers, and here's the thing about the outlap, drivers cannot just drive slowly to achieve that aim. The demand is you got to warm the tyres, avoid traffic issues, keep up to the maximum delta time, meaning there's a requirement to get a hurry on as well. So what he's saying is you can't just come out the pits on an outlap and just go super slow to try and, conserve, have max battery for max attack on your quali lap, on your hot quali lap. He's saying that, well, no, because the standard status quo is still there. You've still got to get your tyres to temperature. You've still got to get the right deltas to carry the speed through into your qualifying lap, yet still manage the battery in the right way. Because here's the thing. There is no scope in the regulations to simply run a quick outlap on the internal combustion engine alone, as there are strict rules regarding power demand. So what he's saying there is because it's 50-50, like 50% IC and 50% battery, it's always 50-50. A driver can't choose to just run on ICE alone, right, and go and save his battery. Because the way it works is when you push the accelerator down, because of this regulation, at any given speed, the driver torque demand map must be monotonically increasing for the increase in accelerator pedal position. So what that means is the trigger for kicking the battery usage and the ICE is linked to the accelerator position. So it means you can't sort of go, oh, turn the battery off, save that battery power. It doesn't work like that. It'll always, as soon as you push the accelerator, you are getting that battery delivery. You're not getting max battery from when you push the boost button, but it's still 50-50. And so it effectively means the trigger for kicking in battery usage is throttle position, not a button on the wheel, apart from for overtake and boost. So in effect, avoid burning up any battery to be very cautious on the accelerator. So what they're basically saying is, you've got to find that. So accelerator, I'm getting very techie. Accelerator modulation, as they call it, the driver's modulation of the accelerator pedal is going to be vital in having the optimum setup for your car hitting your qualification lap. And he also said it's very, very important how you go through the last couple of corners on your previous lap. If you don't carry enough speed out of, say, turn 14 in Barcelona, by the time you come to the start-finish line, you don't have enough speed. So your qualifying lap is already ruined. But if you try to get the speed up, but then have too much throttle, you are deploying towards the end of the outlap. So you just waste the battery on the timed lap. There's a very clear conflict of demand about what a driver needs to achieve and the system needs to achieve. So you have to get it right. Places like Baku, where they have that big city section, you don't want to burn battery power, but also you've got a very long straight for the start-finish line where you need all that battery to deploy. Because in the castle section, there's no point deploying electrical energy in between corners. That's going to do nothing in terms of straight line speed. But if you accidentally do that, go on the throttle too hard in those sorts of sections, then when you deploy the MGUK to basically engage the turbo, then by the time you go to the main straight, you haven't got the necessary electric and energy available, and then you pay a big price. So when you start drilling down into the detail of these cars, so what he's talking about there is the MGUK, which is and also engaging the turbo. It's like if you are, it all comes down to modulation of the pedal. So what does it mean for the driver style? I think this is going to be the biggest change in driver sort of style that we've ever seen in Formula One. I mean, I know there was changes when we talked about Ayrton Senna when we went to the turbo era, where he'd blip the throttle going through corners to rev up the turbo to get a quicker acceleration speed. There has been changes in Formula One, but I just feel that the one we're going into now, it's going to be wild. And I know a lot of people talk about, well, who does this benefit? And actually, some people say, oh, this is going to be great for drivers like Lewis Hamilton. They've got quite a smooth driving style or whatever. But I actually think it's going to benefit the youngsters, the younger drivers. It's going to benefit, I think. And I know some people said some jokes about Kimi Antonelli and Isaac Hadjar. Could you imagine Kimi Antonelli taking George Russell to school next year and being the fastest Mercedes driver? Or Isaac Hadjar, giving Max Verstappen a run for his money. I actually do feel that the younger drivers Kimi Antonelli is a good example. This new way of driving that all drivers are going to have to adopt to be successful in 26, I think might suit the younger drivers. It might suit the Arvid Lindblads. It might suit the Gabriel Bortolettos. It might even suit the Franco Colapintos. But Ollie Behrman, I have a feeling that we're going to see some of these younger, well, were rookies, now sophomores, if you like, really take a step up. That's just my guess. But I want to know what you think. Thane says it was always 50-50. The car would have the power when the boost is on. Yeah, it's always 50-50, but you don't get with the battery, unless you push the boost button, you don't get the full 340 kilowatts of power from the battery. So it's an interesting situation, because to have the available boost from the overtake button and the boost button, they have just got to freaking like drive these cars in the most, really, it's like counterintuitive. There was, you're going to be slowing for the corners earlier and allowing that regenerative braking. So obviously Formula One's always been slow in, fast out. But I think we're going to see slower in. Oh, Thane says Hamilton doesn't have a smooth driving style. Well, no, I suppose he doesn't. I mean, not like the old Jensen Button. Thanks, Thane, for the comment. Jaman says, yeah, the video players and the sim drivers will do better overall in the long run. I think this plays into Max Verstappen's hand as well, actually. He is never off the damn sim. Nathan says, if you can't make a fast lap work without a proper prep lap, how are they going to race consistently over the GP? Well, 100% Nathan. How do they manage a GP over 70 laps? Because if you're prepping it just means that we're not going to, the Grand Prix is never going to be about flat out ever again. Right? That's the issue. You know, when drivers are in qualifying, it's always balls to the wall, flat out. And now because of the there just isn't enough battery to last the whole lap. Flat out isn't going to work. You cannot be flat out everywhere. You've got to choose your moments to use the power. And I think that's why the Grand Prix now is going to be. I tell you what, excuse me, what Kimi Antonelli said. He said it's speed chess. He said Formula One is now evolved into, instead of it being flat out who's the fastest, which of course we love, it's more, there's an element of chess. It's more, I've always thought Formula One was an element of chess, to be honest. I think the best drivers do pick their moments, set drivers up for the pass. There is, but I think now even more than ever, but that's what Kimi Antonelli said, speed chess. Oh, so Thane says it isn't 50-50 all the time. If it was always 50... So it's only 50-50. So, because this might explain what Red Bull were asking for. They were talking about a 5% variance. It's like 50-50. But they were saying, well, they wanted to have a variance of like 5% where the ICE could be 55%, 45%. Oh, gosh. But yeah, I mean, either way, I'm not sure whether it's 50-50 power distribution at all times, and then under boost it'd be more over 50% battery at that point. Yes, they can. Sema Glanese asked a very important question. Can the drivers just spam press the overtake button? Not the overtake button. So they've got two buttons. They've got two modes. They've got the overtake button, which is available on straights like DRS, but the boost button, which they can deploy at any time, which gives you the same. And what the boost button does, it gives you max power available from the battery, and they can deploy that at any time. So they do have more control when they want the extra power, if it's available, if the battery's got the charge in it. But the overtake button's slightly different. That's available on, just like DRS. Active aero opens up, reduces the drag, and it'll be available on the straights. But the boost button, and I wonder, because if the boost button's available, because the boost button's available all the time, how many drivers are just going to be hammering the boost button? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, they get the benefit early on in the lap, and then they've got no energy for the rest of the lap. So I'm actually quite fascinated to see. And when we talked about a closing speed of 50 kilometers per hour, I mean, excuse me, like 50 kilometers an hour, then, you know, obviously the driver in front can defend with his boost button, right? So if he's got the battery as well, but if he hasn't got the battery, it'll just be overtakes 50 kilometers an hour faster than the car in front. Yeah, Josie, it is. It's definitely going to be interesting. Excuse me, but yeah, I like what you said. But there's a hack. We've got a hack. Here's the hack that Williams are talking about to charge the battery whilst we're on it. So Williams believe burning fuel may be the key to having enough battery power to finish the lap. This might be true. So basically, I'll run through this quite quick. So Matt Harmon, who's Williams' technical director of engineering, said this. Obviously, the electrical energy is not sufficient to cover an entire lap, which we all know. So this is what he said. Fundamentally, energy recovery on this car is going to be a challenge. We know we have active aerodynamics on the car, and therefore we need to make sure we can maximize the recovery. So one of the things you might see is drivers pulling a lot lower gears than you've ever seen before to try and maximize that type of recovery in key stages of the laps. As it stands right now, a driver would very rarely pull first gear, but you might see F1 cars dropping into first to help charge that battery. Now that gives us challenges further on in the car, because that's a stability problem. So then you're into how you control the power unit, how you control some of the stability in the rear of the car, the systems that you have to have in there to do that. And this is how he explains it. Imagine a hybrid road car. Let's say you have a car with equal thermal and electrical power on it, so you don't have to press the brake pedal to harvest electrical energy through your electric motor. At any point you decide, you can turn the electric motor into negative torque or negative power, let's say in harvesting mode, and effectively burn fuel to create some electricity. That's happening even in the current regulations. It's not something really new. It's just because the electrical element in 26 is so much bigger, almost 3 times more powerful than the previous era power units, such strategies will become more potent. So I'm not an engineer, but what he's basically saying is they can almost trick the motor to give negative torque whilst using the ICE to sort of recharge the battery. So as much as you can't switch to purely ICE, the internal combustion engine, they think there's like a hack, which they've already currently been using, where you can use the power of the internal combustion engine to use a negative torque on the electric motor in a harvesting mode. Now, I've not heard anyone else talk about it. I'd need it explained more by an engineer. And if there's any engineers in the chat, you can explain that to me more. But it could be a little hack that some teams are able to use to help recharge the battery. Now, negative torque, I always thought that meant the motor would have to go in the opposite direction so where the wheels are turning. So I don't know how that would actually work. Negative torque on a motor surely means not just slowing down, going the other way. I don't know. But if there's any engineers in the chat that can explain that to me in greater detail, I would like to know. But that's one thing, that's one solution. Yeah, so Anthony Ford, that's my understanding. I thought if you took your foot off the accelerator, the power goes to your battery. This is what I thought. If you ever seen a Tesla road car, regenerative braking basically means that if you're driving a car, a normal internal combustion engine, and you take your foot off the accelerator, you roll, don't you? You roll. There's no friction on the wheels. They've got wheel bearings, and you pull your foot off at 50 miles an hour, you'll slow down slowly, but you roll. Now with a Tesla or electric motor, as you take your foot off the accelerator, the car does a lot of you're not pushing the brake. The motor is doing the braking and regenerating the battery. So and that's the same in these Formula One cars. As soon as you take your foot off the brake, it's going to feel like someone's applied a brake, but there is no brake. But you've not applied the brake. It's the motor doing it, and whilst it's doing that, it's recharging the battery. That's my understanding of regenerative braking. Gisette says Williams has no say yet since they only fit the drivers in their seats. Exactly right. Yeah, they're chucking out all these great ideas. Let's see your car first. Let's see your car first, Williams. That's true. Yeah, it's true. Hey, Grey Bush, good to see you in the chat. Cool cup. Yeah, it's full of, I don't know what it is. I've got a white tea, whatever that is. Hooked on classic engine braking. Exactly. So if you take your foot off the accelerator in gear, you'll slow down quicker. But if you're in neutral, you just you roll forever. Well, not forever, but you know what I mean. But yeah, so that's basically what it is. So that's they got rid of the exhaust gas solution, to which they were using exhaust gases, weren't they, to regenerate the battery in the current cars. But now they've gone to a much simpler system. It's cheaper. But for the drivers, it's going to be wild. I mean, I don't know what we'll see. But the evolution of if we get a solid state battery, will that mean that will that be more effective? I think it will. How much more effective? Will it mean they've got enough battery for a lap so they can go balls to the wall? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But because we haven't seen one yet, have we, in a Formula One? We haven't seen a solid state battery yet. They've only been sort of promised from the likes of Honda, but we haven't seen them yet. Oh, Gemma's super chat. Effectively, battery management is key for new reg cycle. It is. It is, Gemma. You're right. And honestly, part of me is a bit sad about that, if I'm honest. Part of me is a little bit. I'm a little bit sad about the fact that battery management is even a thing. Like, I would almost prefer this. Right, hear me out. It's Formula One. It's the pinnacle of motorsport. Imagine if we said to them, there are no restrictions on your battery. Like, you've got more than enough. Battery power is not an issue. You've got that boost. There's no battery management needed, right? I'd almost want the drivers to have more power than they need. So it's always available. So, it's balls to the wall, racing. But people would argue then we wouldn't get as much overtaking. But the reason why it is what it is because it means that we will see overtaking because people will not manage that battery. That because they're defending, they're going to run out of battery towards the end of the lap. It is going to mean more overtaking, but we're going to see a lot of switchbacks as well. We'll see cars overtaking each other, but really, I think we're going to see more switchbacks than ever before. Because we were watching Grand Prix. Most of the time, when we'll watch really over the last few years, we've seen once you've caught the car in front and passed them, we rarely see the car behind them overtake them them again. We don't really see a lot of back and forth switching on the racing, do we? Really racing, we'll see a nice little battle. Someone will get past, and then they're off into the sunset because that car's quicker. I think this situation, we might see more switchbacks by someone overtakes on lap turn one, and by turn 10, the trailing car's overtaking again. So we could see that. I hope so. Oh, God, I'm waffling so my nose is so blocked. Yeah, Greybush says, bring a new dimension. Yeah, true. Hooked on Classic says, synthetic fuel really interests me. I put it in my classic car, but it ain't cheap. Really? You run synthetic? Yeah, I love classic cars. Hooked on classics. Love a classic car. My mum used to have a Triumph Spitfire. I loved it. It was such a cool car. I wish she'd kept it. Oh, jeez. Yeah, not turn Formula 1 to FE. I couldn't agree more. Thane says tyre management was key for last regs. It'll be even worse this year. So now we just have a new element that they have to manage. And especially now I think the tyres are not going to be, they're going to degrade quicker. So all of that in. I mean, I almost want the cars to be harder to keep on the road, really. It sounds awful, but I want it to be harder to do, to finish a race in a lot of ways. You know, I want the tyres to degrade more, really, because I think pit stops are an element of Formula 1 which we need, and I want the cars to be difficult to drive in a lot of ways for the drivers. You know, we want it to be a challenge. You know, I don't want to see people injured, but you know, if it's hard to keep it on the tarmac, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Like, push these drivers to the absolute limit. Sorry, my nose is running out. I can't see it. Oh, jeez. 90 Classic 1972 Ford Cortina Mark III. Yeah, the wedgie one. The wedgie one. So my granddad had a Mark II Cortina. Yeah, Joe said we want to see races racing. They want to race too. Every driver wants to. That's all they want. They just want the opportunity to race. Speaking of racing drivers, let me bring you on to this last story before my nose explodes. Right. Red Bull. I told you it's a slow news day. Not the best news day. Red Bull still trying to improve one aspect of their 2026 power unit after rough edges discovered. So what are those rough edges? And actually, the reason why I brought this story up, and it was in the news today, is because on a show, I think it was last week, Juan Pablo Montoya gave us a little insight into this particular problem with the power unit, and it turns out that he was right. So Ralph Back basically said Red Bull's still concerned with the power unit drivability after Barcelona shakedown. And what Ralph Back, he was talking to F1 Insider YouTube channel, and he said Red Bull have done a pretty good job considering they've just developed the engine from scratch together with Ford. It could have been worse as far as the engine is concerned. There's still some tuning work to be done. The drivability still needs to be improved, and there are some rough edges. But basically, I think Max is satisfied, and it could have been worse if you think Red Bull, and if Red Bull continues to develop and they sort out the fine tuning, they could be fighting with Mercedes. And that fine tuning comes down to not really how powerful the engine is. It's the control. It's the electronic control and software. And the interesting about this story was Juan Pablo Montoya said that they already knew, Red Bull knew that their power unit's decent, delivers the right amount of power, reliable. They're very happy with it, but they're having a problem with their electronics, and they haven't quite dialed in how to deliver that power. So that turns out maybe Juan Pablo Montoya was actually giving us a steer in the right direction last week. So all in all, Max likes the engine. All in all, Max has said there's improvements that need to be made. But what Red Bull are going to be focusing on, not on the actual engine or the power unit itself, that's a thumbs up. It's going to be all the systems around that. Software, I think, as well, electronics, and that's what they're going to be working on for Bahrain. But do we think Red Bull are going to be competitive? Hooks on Clack, the electrical stuff could turn in F1 into Formula E, not good. Oh, yeah, I'm so over it. Josh said, are we talking about Max? It's in Max's DNA. Yeah, Max is a racer. Max, I always say, Max would race shopping carts in your local supermarket, wouldn't he? He'll race anything. He will race anything. Nathan says, oh yeah, I remember you saying who is he to comment on the Red Bull engine. I know, Nathan, I did. Nathan, I did. So what Nathan's talking about is, I was talking about Juan Pablo Montoya talking about the Red Bull powertrain, right? But I'm like going, well, for a start, Juan Pablo Montoya drove for Williams, like, and you know, who are you to comment on the Red Bull powertrain? Turns out his comments might be right. He basically told us last week that Red Bull was struggling with the electrics and software and control of the power unit, but they were all very, very happy with the amount of power that it was producing and how reliable the engine was. And I went and said, who's he? What does he know? Who's his insider at Red Bull? It turns out, story today, that it turns out he was right. Everyone's agreed. Hey, Reese Cup, nice to have you in there, buddy. Motor 659, yes, welcome to the show, mate. Teething pains for Red Bull. They'll get it sorted before Australia. I think so too. I actually think Red Bull. I are going to be competitive. I do. I did say that I had my doubts about the Red Bull powertrain, Ford powertrain, but now I've seen it and early signs. I actually think they're gonna. I think they're not bad, are they? I think they're gonna be pretty good. Yeah, I agree. I think Red Bull will get it together before Australia, for sure. I think here's my little prediction. Who do I think? Okay, let me tell you the teams I think are going to be competing in Australia. I think it's going to be Mercedes. I think it's going to be Ferrari. I know, controversial. I think it's going to be Red Bull and Aston Martin. Those, I'm not even putting McLaren in there. I don't think McLaren are going to be in the top four. From what I've seen at this early stage, I think it's going to be Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin. Those are the four teams I think who are going to be out in front in Melbourne. That's what I think. That is what I think. Don't tell me to predict yet, though, but we will. We love our prediction shows before the Grand Prix. We have a lot of fun with those. Nathan says, yeah, Williams will be running 90s footage. Yeah. Yeah, generally doubt they'll make the 8th. Generally saying, meanwhile, Williams will still be posting old content to social media and be tinkering in the garage. Look, they'll be on the grid. Bahrain's going to tell us so much, isn't it? Oh, it's going to tell us so much. Yeah, it is going to be an interesting time. But Williams have got to show something in Bahrain, haven't they? They need to turn up with a car that's not shit. It can't be a complete bag of spanners, because after all of this delay, all these delays, and from snagging that Mercedes power unit, which is also good for them, that's the right engine, and they've got two great drivers. Well, I mean, Carlos Sainz, I think, is a great driver. Alexander Albon could be a great driver. He has his moments. Then yeah. They just need to get their shit together, and I think, and if they don't, then yeah, they're going to be the meme of the year. Williams are going to get a lot of shit off everybody, and it makes a change, because maybe they'll stop bashing. maybe Lance Stroll gets less bashing, and Williams becomes the butt of the jokes for the start of the 26th season. Oh, the Williams reminds me of a 90s Benetton. Yeah, but 90s Benetton was a good Benetton that won the World Drivers. They won, didn't they? They won the Constructors' Championship under Flavio. Michael Schumacher won in a Benetton, didn't he? Oh, crikey. Right, guys, I'm going to have to cut it short. I need to go blow my nose. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, going to finish my tea. I will be back tomorrow, hopefully feeling a little bit better. 7:30 GMT. And I will see you all then. Thank you for keeping everyone entertained in the chat. Brilliant. I'll see you all tomorrow at 7:30. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Ta-ta.